Hello, welcome back. I'm Jason Sauer, the host of the Cash on the Hood podcast. I'm here again with Marty Warhola and Steven Sickles, my main man. So before we get started, of course, I need you to like, subscribe, and share. Please share this. Help us out. You know what I mean? We want to, Steven's the world champ, and we want to be the world champ podcasts. All right, so help us become world champs. All right?
Yeah, we want to keep bringing you content.
That's right. So we're going to get right back into it. So if you were just listening from episode 5, we're here with Marty Warhola, who is famous in his own right, but he also has a famous uncle named Andy Warhol. So real quick, when did Andy lose the A from Warhola?
Well, that's kind of a big unknown. I mean, he went by Andre Warhola early on in his college days, and then Andy Warhola, and then when he went to New York, that's when he kind of, my dad said he had a portfolio, and he laid it out at a fashion designer's place, and a cockroach came out, and he hit the table, and the A fell off. That's the story my dad tells, but I think that might be a fib. But anyway, I think he liked Warhol because it just was shorter, sounds slicker, you know. He changed it. When
did he move to New York City from Pittsburgh?
1949-50.
That's, you know, I mean, was that traumatic for your family? Were they like, good luck?
I mean, you know, he's the first one in college in the family, so it was kind of a big deal for him to go there, but he was very successful there. He was a illustrator.
Mm-hmm. I mean, from art history, like he started painting windows, and then he was doing album covers with another artist here from Garfield, and those two kind of went different directions. So let's talk about the tragedy. Like, so Andy Warhol was shot in what, 1960? 1968. As a family, what is it like to see your uncle in national news, and that? What happened?
Well, I guess the lady Valerie Saranis was a little bit, you know, mentally disturbed, and she was the head of this anti-men group, which probably Andy didn't know about, but he kind of tried to avoid her, but she was persistent, and she showed up with a gun to, you know, shoot him because she said he was supposed to put her in one of his movies, and she shot him. This is in '68, and when this happened, you know, our family, my brothers, went up there to visit him and take care of him a little bit. Actually, brother and sister took care of him, you know, after the hospital.
Now, he ended up surviving from that.
Oh, yeah, he was...
but he was pretty tore up from it. He had a lot of really giant scars on his chest.
Almost realistically, he was, I heard, pronounced dead on the table. So he died, and they brought him back.
That's incredible.
But... one story I'll have about my brother Paul, the oldest one in the family, is when he was up there, Andy was laying on the bed, and he came over to him and he said, you know, my brother was in the seminary to be a Byzantine Catholic priest, okay? And he was visiting my uncle, you know, not visiting, he was taking care of him with my sister Eve. And he said to my uncle, hey, Uncle Andy, you know those prints you had over there on the table? I took a few of them and I gave them to my, you know, friends, you know, and Andy had a towel over his head, and he jumped up out of bed. He said, "You did what?" He goes, "Paulie, you have to get those back. That's a whole set, and I had those for, you know, somebody." And he goes, I can't get them back because I gave them away, you know, a guy's out of town and stuff.
Oh, so, man. Oh, man.
A little bit of a funny story there.
So you said Byzantine. Are you talking about, did your family go to that church down in the Run?
Yes.
Now I went on the church tour here in Pittsburgh looking at murals. So I can assume if those paintings that were in that church had to influence Andy, right?
Oh, there's no doubt about it.
The paintings, the murals in that church, the
icons
in that church are just beautiful. It's a beautiful artwork, but I can imagine Andy, young, 9, 10, 12 years old, just, you know, as kids do, just like in church, just absorbing this. I mean, so you guys did you go to that church too?
No, that was before my time, but you know, the church back then was a big deal. I mean, you didn't go one day a week. You went for all the holy days, and you might have been to church 3 or 4 times a week, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a big part of our family growing up, you know.
If you didn't know, Stephen, the churches and cathedrals in Pittsburgh are full of really great murals, and each church really has its own artistic identity, and it's kind of nice to go, even if you're not religious, to go on a church art tour.
Yeah, I'd like that. I mean, I actually was born and raised Catholic. I just sort of got busy, and as hard as it is to say, I didn't continue with my following, but
right. Well, I get it.
Life happens, and
right. Well, once Andy recovered from those wounds, do you have an idea like how his career changed from that, or?
Yeah, he closed the factory to the public, so nobody was allowed in there then. And they say that's when a lot of people say that's when Uncle Andy died, you know, because that was the end of all his different artworks he was doing. But that's when he started getting into the portrait painting,
mm-hmm.
and you know, it's always about money with Uncle Andy. It was the number one thing.
Yeah, he was a savvy businessman.
Just on a genius level, you know. And to me, one story I'll say about him when I visited him in the early '80s with my ex-wife. All the mills were closing up around Pittsburgh, and it was like really depressing around here around '82, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was telling my uncle about it, and he's like, "Oh no," he said, Pitt and Carnegie University, they're getting into robotics, and they're going to be really big into computers. And in my mind, I was like, this man is so out of it. Like, what the hell is he talking about? And it was like, I'm telling you, he had a seventh sense on top of it. He was just like, look at them now. I mean, he was so right.
Yeah, that's exactly what they are. They're leading the field in robotics.
Yes.
Yeah, Pittsburgh transitioned from steel to education and medicine, and transitioned slowly, but I think well. I mean, we still have our faults and our things that we need to work on.
Sure.
So 1980, that's when you would have bought the scrapyard in the north side. So you would have been pulling up in the north side right when the steel mills were closing.
Yes.
So
I mean, we were getting a lot of scrap from the steel mills, but it was kind of, it got soon afterward, it got pretty depressing because of all the steel workers losing their jobs. I remember reading a story about Andy. I guess he was invited by Carter to the White House, and he was sitting at the table with the CEO of U.S. Steel, and he gave him this idea. He said they should convert it into an amusement park where the roller coaster goes below the molten steel.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Andy had that ribbing sense of humor, and nobody was laughing at that table, I don't think. But looking back, I wish I would have had a camera in his face on.
Right. I mean, Kennywood would have been open then. So we went at a roller coaster to go across the river.
Right.
Yeah, because when you're at Kennywood, you can see there in Braddock, you can see the steel mill that's still there.
Yes.
So that must have been really interesting. So do people nowadays still know Andy Warhol and you? They're like this. Is there still a connection? Do people still? Is this still something?
I believe so. I mean, a lot of young people come into the yard. I'll tell them, Andy's nephew, and they won't know who Andy Warhol is.
It blows my mind that people don't know who Andy Warhol is,
especially with the largest museum in the country to one sole artist. It's the largest.
It's a 7-story building downtown Pittsburgh next to the stadiums. They have you start at floor 7, then work your way down. So Andy Warhol was a collector of just stuff nonstop. He was really good of just collecting stuff, just like you guys.
He even saved his garbage.
Yeah.
I mean, he would make these things called time capsules, and what he would do is put his junk mail, sometimes a piece of cake, whatever he would, it's probably someone famous, I'm sure, a wedding cake or something, but he would put all these objects into this case after maybe a week or two, or when the box would fill up, tape it up, date it, and he called them his time capsules, which is realistically now they're still opening them, and they're like part of history, which is kind of neat.
That makes it really easier to have a museum when they can keep introducing new stuff, because that's what it is. He just had so much stuff that made this museum possible. Yes. So are you familiar with the pop-up they're putting in New York City? The Warhol Museum?
You mean in Pittsburgh?
No, they have a New York City pop-up Warhol. No,
I
no.
didn't know that.
Okay, New York City's getting a pop-up Warhol, so they're moving some Warhol stuff to New York City. I'm sure they that's a financial decision.
Sure.
Now, okay, so you have stuff of yours in the Warhol Museum, right? From your family that Andy gave you, or
Not really. Oh, well, you're talking about the paintings.
Yes.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we have some of his college paintings, and actually, there's 10 of them, from his college days. And I'll tell you an interesting story about those. Well, my Uncle John, cleaned out the house in Oakland, and he called my dad up. He says, "Hey, Paul, I got this stuff over here. You want to come and get it, Andy was already in New York, and my grandmother was already there. And here there was a stack of paintings and an old sewing machine left. My dad's like, what about the rest of my stuff? Where's my, my dad had this bench at the foot of his bed with all his collectibles and things. He had actually 2 Babe Ruth baseballs that he had Ruth signed.
oh, cool.
So my dad used to hang around the stadium, and he saw Babe hit the last home run there too.
Oh, that's right, because in Oakland, that's where the Pirate Stadium was before it went to the North Shore.
Yes.
That's where, Mazeroski hit the home run.
Yes.
It's pretty cool.
But anyway, he had these paintings, and my dad's like, what am I going to do with these things? So he calls Andy up. He goes, I got these paintings from your college days. What do you want to do with them? And he said, you either get rid of them or keep them, Paul, whatever you want to do. And my dad, of course, hung on to them.
Smart.
And 2 of them are going up for auction at Phillips, probably the 2 best ones, And one's the famous nose picker. And they call it Andy's first self-portrait. It's a abstract figure. It looks a little like Andy with his finger up his nostril, of course. And the other one's of a living room scene, it's called. It was an art project at Carnegie Tech. And those will be going up for auction in November 15th. So we're kind of excited about it.
I do some stuff at Seneca Valley High School once a year where we judge artwork and give away scholarships to artists. And I work with one of your relatives there. What's his name?
Donald.
Donald. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Donald.
I look forward to hanging out with him once a year, and we judge. So Stephen, they all the high schools send in their best artists, and then we are able to give away scholarships at the state level. So we're judges at the state level for giving away art scholarships.
That's great. Donald's a great guy too. He's involved with the Warhol Museum up there.
Yeah,
I think he's one of the directors of the foundation.
Yeah,
but he has a great knowledge of Andy's history.
Yeah, we always have. I think the 2 of us really enjoy each other's company because I don't know. We just I know a lot about art history is
Sure.
like one of my passions. So So for the first time today, I showed you a painting of Alice Neal, who painted Warhol with his shirt off. I'm told from art history it's the only painting of Andy Warhol with his shirt off and those injuries.
Yes.
So Stephen doesn't know much about Andy Warhol.
I don't. I'm learning.
So if you don't know Stephen, there's a museum in the north side. And
I've heard that there was a museum. I didn't know where it was or what it was actually about, but I'm definitely going to look into going now.
Yeah, I'll give you a tour there.
Mm-hmm. Stephen is not afraid to try new things. So
I
I know that'll be on his list of things to try.
Oh, yeah, no, it's mentally there.
Stephen and I travel America doing demolition derbies. Have you ever seen a demolition derby?
I have.
Where'd you see that at?
I not long. I mean, probably a month ago, I saw Demo Derby at Washington County Fair.
Were you there, Stephen?
Washington. I probably would have been. What day did you go? It was a Friday or Saturday?
Gosh, I can't remember.
You probably watched Stephen win first place. Didn't even realize it.
Well, I did win the bone stock full size, and then right after that, my girlfriend Melanie won the stock compacts.
Wow.
One of the nights at Washington.
Wow.
I didn't make it the second night though.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So you don't realize you're sitting next to the world champ.
Yeah,
2021 Unified Point Series.
I've
Steven
won the
Sickles.
stock full size at Washington both of the past 2 years. So
That's impressive.
Hey, Stephen, how many cars you build a week, Stephen?
it feels like 20, a couple.
Wow.
Stephen has a full shop of builders building derby cars for each and every weekend. They have 2-car hauler. They haul these cars. He's got his girlfriend involved in it. She's winning trophies. She's welding the car. She's gotten up. So she's in there getting dirty.
That's the little girl I saw outside?
Yeah, she's got to run 4 times this year. She just started this year, and she got 3 wins already, so she's doing good.
Good for her.
That's pretty incredible. Would you ever get in a derby car?
I don't know. It sounds like fun, but it sounds dangerous.
It is dangerous. Steven, you got any injuries?
Yeah, that's what we were talking about before this, actually. Known injuries in a derby car. I broke my pointer finger on my left hand. It's still a little crooked. I can straighten it, but it feels really awkward.
It's a lot of crooked.
It's a lot of crooked. I've hit my body off the cage a few times, and I feel like I broke the boxer bone in my left hand one time at New Alex. I've definitely received bruised, banged up ribs, sides.
Oh yeah, I've seen Steven's sides when he gets hit in a car, he'll fold over in half. Like his head will bend all the way down to the seat.
Oh yeah,
like it'll just get.
So I only wear the lap belt. I don't wear the chest belt. I get less sore when I wear just the lap belt, and I'm able to maneuver my body to see everything going on better.
Makes sense.
Our buddy Breeze got himself a little chest injury from wearing the shoulder harness. So yeah, the lap belt. That's the key. You want to be loose in a derby car. You want to.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I actually have friends that don't wear a seatbelt at all, but I couldn't imagine that.
No,
that doesn't sound legal.
No, it's terrible.
It's not supposed to be allowed. It's sort of like one of them things you go through. Normally, so when you pull in the arena, the official seatbelt, safety glasses, look at your battery, make sure that everything looks okay. Go ahead, have a good time. So most of the time, they even pull up on your seatbelt. So you're supposed to be wearing one.
Yeah,
I've not wore a seatbelt only because I've accidentally taped it to the pillar. And so I'll build a derby car for months and never once try the seatbelt. Not once. I put the helmet on, the derby's ready to go, and I'm pulling on the seatbelt. I'm like, oh my God, I have this thing. Like I pull out in 8 seconds, and I have this seatbelt wire tied to the car that I can't even. So I'm like, we're in it now.
My dad will enjoy this one because every derby I go to now, and I've ran in between 200 to 300 times. I'd imagine I'd have to actually sit down and count. I'd say at least 4 times I showed up to the derby without even having a seatbelt in my car. So it's like an ongoing joke with my dad now, and I've been a lot better the past 2 years. Like, you got your seatbelt? Did you make sure it worked? Yes, Dad.
Well, it's true. Because you worry about so many other things, making sure the car runs, gets on and off the trailer. You never
make sure you have the best car mechanically and structurally when you pull in that track, but you don't necessarily think about yourself.
No, I never worry about that one particular thing until
I've accidentally welded them behind the seat bar. I've done all kinds of stuff with my seat belts.
Mm-hmm.
I have a side question. What's the story on the bus derbies?
The bus derbies, they don't have them much anymore. They actually used to have them at Washington every year. So
Butler
still has one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I know there were some. I know Smash had one in Ohio last year. I've never even watched one, believe it or not.
Really?
I've seen them on YouTube. They have such hard maneuverability.
Yes.
They don't really.
It's a crowd favorite. I think it's comic relief. It's not.
Yeah,
really...
it's definitely just the idea of the buses. It's not the actual action going on, I believe.
I sent you one from TikTok from California where they're wrecking RVs.
That one was wild. I was watching it, and the dude lost everything off the back of this RV, and I'm like, sort of looks a little bit sketchy, and he's just still going at it.
It's pretty. The people are driving right through the RVs, and there's just stuff everywhere on the track.
Oh, I'd
full
hate
kitchen
to be the cleanup
sets.
crew.
Oh my gosh!
It's incredible. So
they have large engines in those vehicles, don't
yeah,
they?
yeah, they'd have big blocks, so they get going. So, so Steven's trying to derby in all 50 states.
Okay.
Now we already derbied in California, but that was Southern California. So I sent him one from Northern California in April. So we were able to check off Steven's Minnesota. He ended up getting second place in Minnesota last week.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm actually, where's your can?
Which can?
The spray paint can.
Oh, it's in my, dang it.
That was the perfect prop.
It was. I'll have it for next month.
Okay.
So you have one race left for the championship?
I'm done running as far as championship was this year.
Okay. Came in second, did you?
Yeah, I'll finish second in the point scoring.
Pretty
That's a
impressive.
bummer.
Yeah,
You
really.
did all that just to come in second.
Yeah, I mean it's
That's not you.
bittersweet. It's bittersweet.
Who'd you lose to? Do you dare say?
Oh, his name's JD Lorene. He's actually from he's from Pennsylvania as well. He's, I believe, like Claysville, Washington area.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
close.
Yeah.
So, what's still your reigning? They haven't given him the chance. So it's
Yeah,
still your
it
year.
isn't called yet.
It's still your year. You're still the reigning champion there,
Correct.
Steven. That's pretty fun. Now, Steven is known for running little cars. Like, you're probably used to seeing demolition derbies in big 70s cars. So Steven cut his teeth like in the Camry and stuff like that. The kids that are building Camrys nowadays, it's absolutely amazing what they can do with a front-wheel drive car. Front-wheel drive cars moves because of the torque, the front-wheel drive. They move so fast. This dude gets smashed so hard, so often. I feel for his safety. It's just incredible.
Wow.
Oh, they're rough.
You have to put armor plating around it, don't you?
Yeah, they're rough, and I know you don't get to see many derbies, so we can actually make them Camrys run off like 2 wires, like an old school Chevy motor. So
Really?
pretty much just spark and
Wow.
fuel and go.
It's pretty incredible. So it's fun. Now, you don't buy full cars, do you, there in the north side?
No, we don't have enough space.
I brought you some cars, though. They're always pieces of car.
Yes.
I brought you the famous Suburban. You took that off my hands, and I appreciate that.
kind of sad to see them go because they were so painted up, even though they were smashed up. I love that's another thing I wanted to talk about. The colors you use. I mean, it's almost like candy. You want to eat them.
It's fun. Now, you came to my art gallery once, and you bought a sculpture from me, and I appreciate that. I took a car out to California and had it smashed by what's called Megabots. It's my most viewed video, millions of views. This giant robot with an LS motor had homemade paintballs to a crowd of 300,000 people, smashed that car. And we had a Pittsburgh theme on that car. Marty came to my gallery and bought the door off the car, and then it's now hanging in the scrapyard as a central piece when you walk in amongst the Andy Warhol stuff. So
That's awesome.
it's the only time I get to share space with Andy Warhol, other than like when I go to Miami and he's like, they're reselling his stuff there. But
we need to get moving on the Gerardo's Cadillac project.
We do.
Yeah.
So we needed to come back from Minnesota. That was our thing. Now that we're done with Minnesota, we got to finish up with Dead Man. So Steven and I have a demolition derby here in 2 weeks. So by the time you're hearing this podcast, Steven will probably have another first place.
Hoping.
So it's a horror movie themed demolition derby,
Oh wow.
and it's pretty fun.
Yeah, so the whole theme of that derby is based off the movie The Purge. Have you ever heard of that or seen
Of course, yes.
So TJ's put this together that it is your right to purge. So he plays on it this one derby this whole year. It's your right. If you want to go out there and junk this one specific guy, purge. So
Yeah, it's fun.
and being Halloween weekend, it works out for some awesome paint jobs.
It does. I've been painting my way up and down the state. I painted 4 cars just the other day.
Wow.
I painted this one train driving through zombies and zombie parts everywhere. Tons of fun. So it was called the Crazy Train.
Yeah, that dude's a good guy, that Brian Mansfield.
Yeah.
He's a good dude.
Yeah,
I believe
it
that's
was-
who that was, right?
Yeah, it was Brian Mansfield and his whole family. So
These
Bri-
paint jobs are phenomenal. I just can't believe. I said to Jason today, I said, I mean, I hated to ask, but it looked like a decal because it was so perfect.
Yeah, I have a car that Jason needs to paint in the next couple of weeks too. So
it's fun. We're getting better. And that's the best part about derby cars is they never stop building them. So I get to constantly practice my skills and techniques. And derby drivers, surprisingly, are very smart and they think about things. And they give me the opportunity to paint their dreams. So it's not just painting tributes like, whatever happened to grandma on a cancer ribbon or something. But they have like real ideas. Steven wanted Disney characters stabbing one another.
I was just going to talk about that. That's probably one of my most iconic cars in the history of Steven Sickles. Him and Kai did it, and we did the Disney Purge. So
I love it.
my favorite part of the whole thing was Mickey Mouse with a Purge mask on. That was
Oh
it.
man.
He had a big bloody knife.
A
and it
bloody knife, and Goofy was dismembered next to him.
Yeah, we made up a scene that Goofy did something to Minnie, and Mickey was purging him.
Hey, do you have a nice history of these things that you photograph them well and you?
I wish.
Oh,
I don't.
man,
It
come
happens
on.
so fast.
Oh, I documented that one pretty good. I got a bunch of videos of the process, and
Okay.
Steven does good.
the hatch has the hatch has Mickey Mouse in the mouse trap with dead Mickey.
Love it. Seriously.
We crank out the paintings as fat and so sometimes I don't have the opportunity to really so my TikTok has them I film them as you're driving away. So on my TikTok at Most Wanted Fine Art you can see a lot of these cars that I've painted, and it's fun. We have a blast.
I've
Steve and
watched
I.
him paint awesome paint jobs on whole cars in less than a half hour.
That's incredible.
So it's
I want to be in a speed painting contest.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
in Minnesota last weekend. There's just a line of cars for Jason waiting for him, and he's just boom car, boom car.
Wow.
Boom
Yeah,
car.
Kai and I probably painted 35 cars.
Oh my
And
gosh.
in 2 days. It was total fun. And I love watching it all get smashed. I think watching that artwork get smashed is that's the John Chamberlain in me.
I can't imagine your mind because each car is a different design.
It
So
has
you-
to be.
you- So your brain's operating like you're making something new on every one, and I'm like,
It's
that's wild.
I have a lot of self-critique, and each and every time I draw one single line, every single time this is probably my problem, but my problem is I think I could have did it better. I'm like, oh, I could have just did that line just a little bit better. So
Wow.
every time even if it's the last car of the night, I want it to be
the thing with Demolition Derby is you have probably from noon to 4 to get this whole line done. So it's hard I'm sure it's hard for him.
Derby drivers don't have the cars prepared for me weeks in advance. So there's some other artists who do this, and they airbrush or whatever, but they need your car to be done, competition ready, and then in their shop 2 weeks before because they're going to work on it for a full week. So there's other artists out there who are making greater artwork than I am, but they have a full week.
Yeah.
And
I don't know that
they're
I'd say
not.
some of your stuff quick is better than I've seen
Wow.
people do.
I
in a
believe
month,
I can believe it.
for sure.
Well, it's I do it for the Pittsburgh graffiti scene. I know they're watching me, and I want them to be proud of me out here. They just want me. They want my stuff to look clean. That's what I heard from the streets. Just make it look clean. That's how we hold the standard here in Pittsburgh. And I'm like, that's all I worry about. My stuff's got to be clean at the end. That way everyone feels good that I'm representing the city, you know?
You know what, Jason? I'm glad you're part of the city. We're proud to have you here. Seriously.
Well, I'm proud to have you here. I was so excited to move to the city of Pittsburgh, and Andy Warhol's nephew was my neighbor. I was stoked.
I like getting to meet famous people. I got to meet Josh Decker last weekend. That was pretty cool.
Right? That's pretty cool. Yeah, so Steve and I, we do a lot of traveling, you know, and it's been a lot of fun. You got any other Andy Warhol stories before we kick it down?
One small one. You know, my uncle did a World's Fair back, I don't know what date it was, I'm guessing 63, 4 or 5 or something. In New York or New Jersey, they had a World's Fair. And I don't know if people know what that is, but it's like...
Well, they had the one in Queens where they built the spaceships up on the towers.
Yeah.
Maybe that was where it was.
I'm not sure. But anyway,
okay, my
he
bad.
did this giant auditorium. The outside of it, he had the Most Wanted.
Yes, I do. I remember this.
And it was like the FBI's Most Wanted, and it was on, large. I don't know if he did it painting wise or actually painted on the building itself, but it was a shocker to them, and they painted over it.
They
if you
did.
can believe it.
That was one of his first offensive pieces. It was pretty cool. The people weren't ready to celebrate the Most Wanted.
Yes. And he also did car crash series,
The Death and Disaster series.
and
I love.
it's just kind of incredible because he does one where a woman, laying on the roof of a car, she looks like she's in bliss sleeping, Meanwhile, she committed suicide and jumped out of the building and landed on the roof of the car.
That was his only series where it's just black and white because he's usually known for his bright colors.
Yes.
And
And another one was where there was a car crash, car's on fire, and a guy's hanging on a telephone pole, which is almost, I don't know what you'd call dark humor, right?
Little grim.
yeah, I think that he was pushing the envelope. You know what I
Yes.
mean? That's what his whole a lot of his stuff he was doing was pushing the envelope.
Yes.
And we all know about the painting that he peed on just so he could get it to oxidize.
Yes.
All right.
I'm so going to have to go to this museum.
Yeah, so he was experimenting with techniques. He was using a process called screen printing, which was just becoming new and able to be used by the general person at the time. And so, that's what kind of made pop art. He was using mechanical techniques to make the paintings, as referenced by these Warhols behind our head here. So they're very recognizable. And he just started making celebrities, and he knew that celebrity sells.
Yes.
It's pretty, so he knew more than we know it now. It's just like, obviously celebrity sells.
That's the process you showed me last weekend, correct? The screen printing?
Yeah, where we went to that art studio there in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it. That's exactly it. So that's what they did. You're making multiple editions. So for young money, you buy prints, because it's only like $2,000 for a print, and then the painting is like $30,000. So,
but they could both be silkscreen.
Yeah, it's interesting how that works.
I mean, if you think about it, it was made for packaging in the early days, and then Andy took it to an art form.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, he also did painted comic strips, and then when he found out Liechtenstein was doing them, that's when he dropped it. And
yeah, he said Liechtenstein was doing it better than him because they were showing it side by side. They both had a Mickey Mouse with a gold background.
Okay.
And Liechtenstein's looked. I could see why.
Slicker, yes.
Yeah. Well, he was using the dots, and Andy wasn't.
Okay.
So it was a very particular detail.
Yes.
But no, that was good that they kind of found each other and then moved in different directions.
Absolutely.
I don't know. Do you live the art lifestyle? Do you live this? Do you know it? Is it a part of deep in your life? Or
it is. I mean, I love art and enjoy it, and my dad always was into it.
Mm-hmm.
Up at his farm, he'd always be creating something outside, and he made those chicken paintings back in the day.
Nice. Steven collects art too.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting.
Actually,
you guys are very similar. You collect art and you do your things.
I actually have a bunch of panels from when you used to paint my cars. I have some of them saved that you've never even seen probably. So
thank you,
I've
Steven.
been saving them along the way.
You're a true friend.
The Disney van will live on. I'll cut some pieces off of it before it goes.
Steven has been turning those paint jobs into digital animation.
Yeah, they turn out pretty sweet.
Wow, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. So where can they see that, Steven?
You can either see that on just my Facebook page, so my name, or you can see him on TikTok, Instagram. TikTok is Sickles911. You want to follow me on there and pay attention to what's going on with this.
Yeah, and your Instagram is It's Sickles.
I believe so.
ITZ.
ITZ.
It's Sickles.
Sickles
I tag you all the time, so I know what it is. Nice. So
I always forget about Instagram for some reason, and that's something that they say that really that's the one I should be pushing.
Well, you're not. There's levels of fame, and it starts with Facebook fame, TikTok fame, and then Instagram fame.
Yeah, I'm very not Instagram fame.
Right, and that is enormous. There's no matter how much people say, there's a huge difference between those two until TikTok comes. But that Chinese company, who knows? That platform could go away and they'll be back to Instagram again. But
sort of be sad. I like the TikToks. I think
it's perfect. It's perfect. I've been trying to get into the YouTube Shorts, which is also TikTok, only because my 10-year-old told me that's where the kids are watching it.
Okay.
So more children are watching YouTube Shorts, which is TikTok, than TikTok.
Yeah, just like Facebook has the Facebook Reels now.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anything about that till recently, and I actually got a $198 check from Facebook last month.
Congratulations.
That was pretty interesting.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Lately, they've been giving out money to post on there.
This is on your animation?
No, that's on different derby content.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
pretty good.
Yeah, the animations are more just for personal use. They're going to be used in some videos coming up and T-shirts and stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, he has this map where it kind of shows America, and Steven's little cars are moving across the America.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Each episode of because I'm doing a 50 states thing, and I'm going to do a little mini documentary of each state.
Nice.
That is pretty interesting. So I want to close it up here, Steven. I think that went really well, Marty. What do you think?
I had a great time.
We loved having you.
So you're going to come run the MWFA class?
We'll have to talk him into coming into a demolition derby. Now I've had you scheduled now for the last couple months, and I was making sure that you were coming yesterday, and he said he watched all the episodes to make sure he knew what we were about, Steven.
Yes.
I appreciate you doing that.
Thank you.
Well, we appreciate having Marty Warhola here telling us his great story of his Uncle Andy and how he makes his living in the North Side metal business there. And, of course, our main man, Steven Sickles, world champ. I'm Jason Sauer. This is Cash on the Hood. And please like and subscribe, share. Steven and I want to be world champs in podcasts. We're taking down Rogan and the Logan brothers simultaneously.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, well, we can do it. I believe in us. So, thanks again for Brian Cottington. He has Cinema Psychos podcast. He is our engineer, and he makes sure all the buttons are pushed correctly, and we love Brian for everything he does. And, of course, our main man, Gerardo, there in Mexico, taking the video portion of this and turning it into our YouTube channel. So without Gerardo and Brian, we are kind of just sitting here looking silly. So I appreciate them, and I appreciate StudioME here in East Liberty for giving us the opportunity to do what we do here in the city of Pittsburgh. And for Cash on the Hood, I want to thank you guys so much for coming in.
Thank you.